we have heard a lot. We heard that without raising up our own leadership or messiahs, we are inevitably committing cultural suicide. We heard that we have an established order and a place that was set up in time. And we heard that we have to reconnect to that. But now, let's hear how we going to do that from a geopolitical standpoint that is righteousness for us all. So, to bring that message to us is my teacher, Mama Ray, Yosef.
First and foremost, giving honor and praise to those who want Israel. We thank you for our ancestors, those who made the transition, those who currently in our midst, whatever form they may be found. We thank you for our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. We thank you for Moses, or what the world of the Hebrew knows as Moshe, or the Arabic Musa, for bringing us the Holy Torah. We thank you for Yeshua in Hebrew, or what we call it in English, Jesus, or Isa in Arabic, for bringing us the new gospel. And we thank you for Prophet Muhammad in Abdullah, for the Holy Quran. We also thank him for Ben Ami HaMashiach, who had the spiritual fortitude to leave us out of the northern hell of America and return us back to our land, language, and culture. For our other inspired leader, Nasi Shalia, who is our greatest historian and our great teacher, and their greatest student, Prince Asir, the Holy Ambassador, who made that reality possible for all of us. And I thank all of you, those who are here, because without you, this wouldn't be anything. You are the vision. You are the relativity to us manifesting God's vision. So those I leave you in the words of peace. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom. Shalom.
What a wonderful evening. And I want to thank again the mighty Nasi, the mighty Rabbi, for setting the standard today. And you give me so much praise and honor. One day I'm going to have to live up to it.
Oh yeah, one day.
Yeah. But before I go into my message today, I want to press on a point that was brought to my attention about everything that's going on into the media today. The mass shootings, the double police, and the unarmed black civilians. And before I can even respond to their question, I asked them how they attended classes. I said that because the structure of what we create these classes for is to evolve ourselves in the geopolitical aspect of what we're facing. Not just currently, but in past events that brought this to existence. So we always look at things as what it is in that particular moment, but we never look at the things that preceded that brought it to fruition. These things are just happenstance. These things are just things just by opposite of the whim. These have been systematically, strategically, and systemically put in place. So when we look at this involvement of the murders, the mass shootings, it isn't just ideas of individual person that just got mad or reacted. It's a culture of death, devastation. It's a culture of murder and the enslavement of God's children. Right. So I want to read a couple of quotes before I get started. GK, I'm going to be quick, like I always say. So I just want to read a couple of quotes, and I want to know if anybody can identify who would say something like this. First, I have urged the colonization of Negroes in Africa, and I shall continue to bring them to fruition. It's Abraham Lincoln. Now this is the one who gave us our emancipation. This is the one who said we all created equal. We called for the supposedly 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. I want to hear the mentality of those who run this country so that we can see that it's not individualistic, is put systematically in place. You know, there is nothing more certain written in the book of faith that these people are to be free. Nor is it less certain that the two races, equally free, cannot live in the same government.
Came.
That's Thomas Jefferson. Can I come more? I have a strong feeling of repugnance when it comes to the Negro being made our political equal. And I will be glad if they will be colonized, sent to heaven, or got rid of in any decent way. James Garfield. These are presidents now. These are the ones who set the standard for this political machine, which is America. A perfectly stupid race can never rise to a very high plane. The Negro, for instance, has been kept down as much by a lack of intellectual development as much as anything else. Theodore Roosevelt. See what? Yeah, the one who preceded the uncle of Franklin D. Roosevelt brought the New Deal, who started the ship of us being voted for Republicans to Democrats. You want to hear it doesn't matter who you vote for in this system. It doesn't matter what face it is, because it's been put in place. Even before America was considered an official sovereign nation, 1776, racism was always the religion, the policy, and the dictates of this land. Since 1555, they brought us only on the slave ship Jesus. 1619, when we came over here, it was institutionalized as policy for you to have slaves. This has always been in place. So it doesn't matter even if you have President Barack Obama. The policies do not change because it is a corporation. It's a business to keep God's children enslaved. Yeah. Mental, physical, social, intellectual.
Hallelujah.
Negroes are excited by freedom, and they don't understand and are not equipped to handle the demands and privileges of citizenship.
Came.
Woodrow Wilson. I gotta read these things. I don't want to be redundant, but we gotta press on these points because this is what we tell you. You are not gonna know how to face systemic racism. You're not gonna know how to face police brutality. You're not gonna know how to face these murders. You don't know how to face the hate that we have between each other if you don't know the history that preceded that. Yeah. So you can talk Black Lives Matter all you want, but if you don't understand why it was Black Lives Matter since we became on these places. Right. We've been talking about whether it's Sojourner Truth, whether it's Harriet Tubman, all those Demar Vesey, Nat Turner, all the way to Prince Asiel Ben Ami, Vice President Chancellor, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It's the same thing that we've been trying to implement because we have to change our minds. We're stuck in a mental capacity of just surviving because we've adopted the enslaved mindset. And that's why they can say these things unequivocally, without any regard. In public, because they know it is true now. They created and bred the mentality that we have today, which is the nigger in America. That's still present, no matter how much money you got, no position, no capital cards, or how many education schools you developed in institutions, no many degrees, it doesn't matter. You still have the same mentality, so therefore you can be controlled the same way. Listen. I went nigger chasing on Monday, right through Central Africa, Vine Street. There was no trace of that Nelson nigga, Harriet Truman. And you know what we think about anybody, because he's the same one that said the bombs will be dropped in Japan. Listen, I'm progressively going to the modern day, so we can see it doesn't change. I'll have those niggas voting Democratic for the next 200 years. Lyndon Baines Johnson. Lyndon Baines Johnson, anybody understand his policy? He's the one that worked hand in hand with Martin Luther King to bring forth the Civil Rights Act. But what was his agenda for bringing them forth? He understood that our fight wasn't a civil fight. It's a suicide, like the Nazi said earlier, so eloquently. We have been involved in civilly with people that are uncivilized by their dictates, because their very nature is one of death and devastation. One is implement war. So as we go back and look at what's happening today, and they try to paint this picture like when those police officers died in that murder, which we can get into, which is still up to speculation how it went down. Yeah. Because they tell us what's going on with the movies and everything else. They have the ability to control, mind control. We study CIA's operations, where they have the ability to trigger certain things, do certain sounds, electromagnetic waves, all these different things. They give certain people certain responses that may act in volatile ways.
Cain.
You set the standard and the scene for us to react a certain way.
Right.
That's all this is now. You create race wars when you don't have them. You create wars with other countries when you don't have them. To produce whatever designated effect that you desire. This is what happens to us because we are unconscious of the environment that we're participating in. Because we're stuck on survival. That's why Nazi said we have to eradicate ourselves from this very system. Got two more I want to read for you. African Americans watch the same news at night that ordinary Americans do. William Clinton, the first black president. Yeah. So he says African Americans watch the same news that ordinary Americans watch. They're telling you it's a distinction. Because if you look at the word American, I wish I had my dictionary, the origin of American means one who has European origin. So you can't even be considered American unless you come from a European descendancy. Understand, this is imperative. That's why they want us to accept these titles. You accept being an African American because you denote your power. You delineate the strength that you have because you take yourself out of the culture and the essence of who you were made to be. Use a quick example for those who are trained or anybody who studies martial arts. Your body has the optimal strength when you're in structural alignment. You can have both ends of the bone, you can press it how much you want, it won't break or bend. But if you hit it at the weak part of the bone when it's out of structural alignment, it breaks fairly easy. That's how we are spiritually. If we're not structurally in our essence, in our nature, which we were created to be, that's when we bend to society and live ourselves rhythmless and helpless to those who control us. So they break our spirits, our minds, our hearts, and our physical bodies, and now we become subservient to them.
Cain.
This last one, I'm going to read this last one. This guy. Do Brazil have blacks too?
Oh, yeah.
George W. Bush. But we look at it as ignorance, but when you understand the whole context that we have with the president from Brazil, he was saying you have blacks who have the ability to know who they are. Do you have people that are conscious of what they are, what they've been through, where they're from, so they have the ability to free themselves and rid themselves of their oppressors? That's what he meant. So he was giving them forewarning. Beware, because the element of liberation is in the air. It's a whole change in dynamic. Like he said, we're in another realm of leadership. We're coming out of war, and now we're coming into liberation. So once you're liberated, you have to know how to implement peace and prosperity. That's what we face now, the implementation of peace and prosperity, so that we can truly be in a situation that we are thriving in. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, I want to start with one thing. My message today, in the fourth installment of How to Birth the Yah Civilization, is Yah's agenda. See, whenever we have something that we want to implement, we have to have an agenda. We have to have plans, policies, dictates to implement to ensure the success rate of what we're trying to accomplish. But we have to take the time to have an agenda. We get so caught up in doing stuff that we don't actually properly plan. My father always teaches us, plan proper plans, does what? Every time. So he says, plan your work and work your plan. But we don't have a plan. But normally, what we do, and that's why I see, and my father can bear witness that this was created, because this is an outline and a structural guide of how to implement our agenda. So I just want to read what agenda is real quick. A list of items to be discussed at a formal meeting, a plan of things to be done or problems to be addressed. But this is the one that's the most pertinent. The underlying intentions or motives of a particular person or group. What are our motives? What are our intentions? The reason why a lot of these things only got to a certain point because there was no true intention and motive on how to accomplish it and see it all the way through. Because a lot of times the enemy superseded our position in that objective. And they were to steer us off the path of what we're trying to truly attain. Pt4 is a perfect example of that. And so now we have hypocrites that are in front of leadership or in front of the movement that are able to steer us away from our true objective and goal. And what is a hypocrite? One who speaks something that is not truly in his heart. So we become hypocritical because we say we want freedom, we want life, liberty, but what are we doing in our own lives to bring that to fruition? Like the Nasi said, you want life, but you still can't stop smoking cigarettes. You want life, but you know the carcinogenic effects and the cancer that happens from this meat that's been pumped over antibiotics, steroids, and you can't stop eating it. And you can't say that, well, I don't know any better now, because it's everywhere. You can't say I don't have no place to eat. Soul vegetarian was created 36 years ago. All over the country and the world. So you've been enlightened, and if anybody who became a soul vegetarian, you don't have to have money to eat. All you gotta ask is the prince, hey, I need something else, and he's gonna take care of you. And I'm just saying, but we have people like that, that if you take one step, it's crazy, if you take one step towards me, I do what, brother? I'll take two towards you. We gotta be willing to have the ability to take the first step. That's what we have to do to bring forth our own salvation. So understanding the underlying intentions and motives is the agenda that we have to implement. So what is our responsibility as men and women who want to implement a Yah civilization? What is required of us? What do we want to attain? What is expected of us? So to understand that, I want my brother Daniel to read the definition from a metaphysical standpoint of Adam. Because we have to go back to the beginning to understand where to end up. Like the brother said, retracing your steps. Well, this is our way of retracing our steps spiritually, intellectually, and then physically through the manifestation of our thoughts. Because now we got to separate the wheat from the tare. Bob always speaks about this, separate the wheat from the tare. See, we fall victim sometimes when we fall to our weakness and we think that we automatically make ourselves tares. But you're not a tare, or you're not a tare if you fall weak to something. You become a tare once you stay in that weakness. Hear me? You're going to have a little leeway, you're going to fall and stumble sometimes. But if you stay there, that's where the problem comes. Now that's when you come contrary to your very nature, and you possess the spirit of a demon or a devil. And because we know a demon or a devil is one who's contrary to Yah's vision and plan, his agenda, and the agenda of his progeny. So go ahead, brother.
The name of the first man of the body, the name of the first man of the human race, according to the Bible. Genesis chapter 5, verses 1 through 5. A city, chapter 3, verse 16. The first movement of mind in its contact with life and substance.
The first movement of mind to what?
Mind in contact with life and substance.
To life and substance. So all behavior is either learned or imitated. So what are we learning? Like we read the presidents, their behavior is learned and imitated. They're just watching the presidents that came before them. Anybody who understands the president's office, you have to have a picture of a president that preceded you. So Obama automatically put himself at a disadvantage if he was trying to replicate and emulate one of those previous presidents. Abraham Lincoln, I presume, is the one he has hanging up. And we see what he thought about afterwards. So you can tell through the policies that Obama and his administration has implemented that he's just following course. Consciously or unconsciously. But we got to see the paradigm. So if we're going to fully eradicate ourselves from this system, we have to acknowledge and equip ourselves with the proper knowledge that it takes to do so. So we got to go back to that original mind, that original agenda. Keep going, brother.
Adam also represents the generic man, or the whole human race, epitomized in the individual man ideal.
Go back to the idea. It says at the beginning, God was what? The rabbi, you know what?
Word.
Was the Word. What's the Word? The Word sparks for what? An idea. An idea. What are our ideas? That's why we got to change our minds. Before you can change your reality, You gotta be in an environment. That's why we created this environment, one that's conducive to life. You're not gonna come here talking about BS. You're not gonna be talking about chasing women. You're not gonna come here talking about foolishness and folly. We're gonna put you in an environment that's predicated on life. Now you can change your thoughts. That's the first thing on the agenda. It's to change your thoughts. Keep on, brother.
Eve is the feminine aspect of generic man, outwardly manifest. Male and female created Eve them. If the ego or will, which is man, has adhered to wisdom faithfully and has carried out in his work the plans that are idealized.
Right there. See, if we read that one more time so everybody can hear it again. I think we get a little muffled with the AC. Read that one more time, brother, before we break it down. So I want you to really grasp this picture, especially for those who are watching and watch this at home. I want you to really understand how important this is to bring forth our survival and then taking our ability to thrive.
If the ego or will, which is man, has adhered to wisdom faithfully and has carried out in his work the plans that are idealized in wisdom.
Work your plan, plan your work. But you have to have a plan. We were watching an interview on the Breakfast Club, Dr. Umar Johnson, and the interviewers were saying that we need leadership so we can know what to do. That's BS. We have leadership. You always have leadership. The problem is you don't want to do what it takes to follow and to end up being leaders yourself. You don't want that responsibility.
King.
You want to go party, you want to hang out. We created a paradigm to fix the problems. What you doing? You finding every other excuse to be away from this. You don't want leaders. You want to make excuses. That's all you ever wanted. You didn't really listen to Martin when he was here. You followed him, you marched with him, you did some things because you felt your situation was so bad. But as soon as the second came that you got any leeway, any type of assumed progress, you ran at it. Like a dog chasing his tail or chasing a car. You didn't even put no thought into it. Now you see the devastating effects that it has on our generations. Now the boys are women, the women are boys, everybody's drugged out, everybody's killing each other because you didn't have the ability to hear. You don't want leadership. So we gotta fix that misconception because we got leaders. Catholics, I see I'm here, Rabbi, and honorable ministers, we got leaders that got the format, got the plan, got the agenda for us to implement. And what we do, we like listening to them every once in a while, because they talk with fire, possess that spirit, but as soon as it's over, we go back to our lives. Not implement anything that was taught and told to us. Keep on, brother.
It has created a harmonious consciousness.
So I wanted to say before you go, that is the number one definition for a hypocrite. Is what we just said. Somebody that speaks words that are not in their hearts. Because if you want salvation, you won't find salvation. When those new shoes come out and the first 2-3 stores don't have it, you find a way to get it. At Christmas, when the child tells you want that certain toy, you go all over the city, even all over the state to find it. So don't tell me that we ain't got leadership and you ain't even searching for it. First in your heart, and then externally for those who possess the intellect of God. Keep on, bro. I gotta get it off my chest. Yes, sir.
Adam in the Garden of Eden is symbolic of that consciousness. Adam,
Eden, heaven, paradise, the original state of mind that we were created in. We were created from the mud, the black clay of Eden, of perfect harmony. In relationship with our Creator and with creation. That's why we were given dominion over creation. Harmonious. That's prosperity at its highest state. Not having no monetary value, the ability to be in harmony with Yah and His creation. Keep on. That's the agenda we got to get back to.
Adam in his original creation was a spiritual illumination.
Spiritual, being the light. So that's what we're doing here. We're teaching people how to be arsonists. Not in the sense that we're going about burning down buildings, but we're starting the spark of imagination and creativity in their minds that brings forth their own salvation and their freedom. That spark of life. You gotta hear me tonight. That's what you have to be. Everywhere you go, if you're going to speak truth to power. Don't just have no mundane conversations anymore just because you can. We have an obligation if we know truth.
Spirit breathed into him continually the necessary inspiration and knowledge to give him superior understanding.
Superior understanding. That means if you have a father, you have a mother that has this knowledge, don't disregard it. Take heed to it. Embrace it and live it. We get caught up in want to do everything that our parents don't want to do. We want to do everything opposite. But understanding your father and your mother, understanding your parents is understanding your very nature. If you can't understand God, if you don't understand your parents, there's steps to this. So you talk about you a God, but you don't have no reverence for your parents? That's why the commandments say, honor thy mother and thy father, so your days be long. So you don't know how to live if you don't know how the ones who lived before you live their life. The path. They got a format, agenda. You gotta understand this. This is what we gotta get back to. If we want to have television or anything, it's gotta be the straight path towards life. The proliferation, perpetuation, and the preservation of their life. Keep on.
But he began eating or appropriating ideas of two powers.
Yes, our fall came. So we understand that apple that we consume was something contrary to our very nature. It was the acceptance of something that did not perpetuate life. So now we can see the degeneration first of our minds, heart first, and then cranium, then our bodies, and then ultimately our very essence, which is our soul. And that's why we're in the state that we're in now. And that's why we can let this world get away with murdering down black men, women at a whim, and still let them prosecute men like Adrian Peterson, who was arrested a couple years back for disciplining his child. If anybody wasn't familiar with that scenario. He not only got fined by the NFL, charges was brought up on him, and he was suspended so he couldn't make a living. So you tell me, if I'm a European, I can murder down a black man and say whatever I want to say and get paid leave. But if I'm an NFL player and I discipline my child, I don't get just suspended, I face jail time. They don't do that to us, we do that to ourselves by accepting it. Because we go along to get along.
Fake it till we make it.
Lose our position.
King.
We want to stay in good standards with Master.
Right.
King.
We don't have the ability to bring forth our own salvation. We don't have to run create a world.
Right.
So we stay subservient to those who we assume do. But we see they cannot run the world because their world is based on death and devastation. The destruction of the world. So what are you emulating? There's only two types of religion, learn and imitation. All behavior is that way. And what we've been imitating and learning from is the devil himself.
Hallelujah.
Keep going, brother.
It says ideas of two powers, God and not God.
It's simple. Life and then not life. It's simple. Let's make it plain. We're going to take it out of the religious world. Life and not life. It's two forces on this planet. Those who perpetuate life and those who bring the destruction of life. Which one are you participating in? Come on, sir.
For good and evil.
Which is good or evil?
The result, so the allegory relates was that he fell away from spiritual life and all that it involves.
When we broke down spirituality, are the laws that perpetuate life. We understand spirituality is not something you just say if you don't have a religion that you belong to, which is something we always use. Well, you Christian, you Muslim, no, I'm just spiritual. But what does it mean to be spiritual? What does that mean? But we know through the teachings of our fathers, so forth and so on, that spirituality is your very nature, your very essence, as it relates to the culmination of life. something that was contrary to life.
Man and spirit.
Man and spirit.
Absolute and unconditional. For man forms an Adamic consciousness into which he breathes the breath of life.
This is the highest intellect. The throughout. When we know it in Hebrew, the word is spirit or wind is throughout. It's the same word. So when God breathed the breath of life, when God breathed the breath of life, He gave us the spirit of the highest of level, which is intellect of God. Like we said, we was formed and fashioned from the earth. Our bodies were formed and fashioned from the earth. Our minds was a replication of the heavens and the universe, but our intellect was of Yah. That's what made us in His image and His likeness. Because we possess the ability to share the mind and the mandate of the Creator of all life and living. Keep going.
This, in its perfect expression, is the Son of Man.
That is the perfect. So, understanding Adam in its most perfect state, its original intent, is understanding the essence of man, which is understanding the agenda of man in this new heaven, in this Yah civilization. What is expected of you. That is your mandate. You want?
An expression of the divine idea.
Goes back to that idea, goes back to that thought.
This Adam is all of what we term soul, intellect, and body.
One and the same, that point.
We are
It said, the script says, the spirit, the flesh profits no, but the spirit, but no, that's not true. The flesh profits because of the spirit, because they're one and the same. So if your spirit is in tune with universal law, your soul is activated, your body automatically benefits. Because you put the right ingredients that it needs to sustain itself.
Can.
Now you see why Abraham, the brothers like that lived the years they did, now years.
Hallelujah.
Enoch never died. Said Elijah never died. You understand now? It takes it out of the realm of this spooky stuff, this spook stuff. You have the ability to manifest the power that was innately given to you by the Creator of the Most High if you follow His agenda.
Hallelujah.
We are continually at work with this Adam. We can breathe into his nostrils the breath of life, inspiring him with the idea of life and all its unlimited fulfillment.
So, we have that same ability. So that's what we have to do in our lives. Men, especially young men coming up with this, all the brothers that say they with this, with me, with the prince, with the rabbi, with my Abba, with truth, with righteousness, with Yah. This is what you have to do. Everywhere you go. So all these things we got women, why they not here? Where's your women at? See, we got to be honest with ourselves. Either we hypocrites or they not our women. And if they not our women, then we ain't got no time wasting with them.
Hallelujah.
Stop making this spooky, man. Make this real. You talk about this is what you want to do, you want to create a world, you want to bring forth your salvation. This is stuff you are required to do as a man of God. You hold God accountable for what happens in your life. Why can't we hold you accountable for what happens in our lives? If you say you got our best interest, you my brother, that means you are to be held accountable for your actions. It's a certain way we got to conduct ourselves. We get to that point where we're past the introductory stage. Certain things are required. Responsibility, accountability. No more tardiness, no more half-dress, no more, none of that. If you want to be a God, if not, ain't no more time wasting anybody's time. Most importantly, Yah's time. Because you stand in His name, but actually, you bring a profaneness to His name. Because everything your actions are contrary to the words that you speak. You're a hypocrite.
We can lift up this Adam by infusing into him the sublime ideas and in no other way.
So I want to stop there. Because when I see, before we go to the woman, I want to talk about what is in the book of absorption and from a man's perspective. Page 9, I'm sorry. I'm just going to read these 12 points of what's expected of Yah's son. Before I go into that, these are 5 things that we have to implement in the agenda of Yah. The 5 C's that I got, relative to our growth and our development. First is commitment. We got to be committed to the vision, to the agenda, to the plan. second is consciousness. And our commitment, we have to raise our consciousness to bring forth the ability to have the highest intellect. Second is the courage. The courage to see things through no matter what obstacles we face. No matter what impediments are put before us. You gotta have the courage to see it through. No matter what nobody else thinks. Consistency. The fourth C. You gotta be consistent. There's no point in doing something every other day. No point in doing something every other week. It's gotta be consistent. It's gotta be an everyday thing from the day when you wake up till you go to sleep. And even when you sleep, it's gotta be on your mind. Your dreams gotta be dreams. You guys gotta think about the same thing. And the fifth and final one is creativity. You gotta be creative in this. I don't need you replicating nothing that's already happened before, especially if it's not beneficial. We don't need that. We need creativity. Bring forth ideas that bring forth life and the proliferation of life. Be creative. Because that's what God wanted to be creative. That is your innate ability to have the ability to create and manifest your thoughts and bring them to fruition. So commitment, consciousness, courage, consistency, and creativity. Those are the 5 C's, brothers, we have to implement, and sisters, but definitely our brothers. So I wanted to read the 12 points, starting right there. So in the line of those 5 points, this is relative to that. Oh, let's do 6.2 points.
First one, obedience.
Obedience. And what else?
Obedience and humility.
And humility. We got to be obedient to a cause, but we have to have the humility to listen, to hear, to take instruction, to be disciplined, to see things all the way through. Not to always know and always want to talk, always be in front, but be able to be led, because we know true leaders are the best followers. Not those who follow those who contrary to life, but those who understand the Spirit of God that's in a person and have the ability to relate to it. So ultimately, you're not following anything. You just being led by your other self in another body, in another body. Ain't no such thing we just follow how this European world is connected or created.
Can.
But you just follow the Spirit of God that just is possessed in somebody else's body. Which is a replication of you. Because if you're in tune with universal law, the law of attraction, you're only going to be around people that are relative to your mind.
Hallelujah.
Keep on, son.
Obedience as a child, humility. In order to possess the holy attributes of obedience unto Yah, his Father, Creator, man must continually remain humble unto God's instructions, laws, willing to hear and do what he is instructed. Love and crafts.
Love and crafts. We talk about love. Love is a process. It's something that just happens over time. When you like somebody, you just have some physical attraction. It is the culmination of dedication, consistency, purpose, and destiny. So to truly love somebody, you have to be and have ultimately the same destiny. You may not be on the same road, but you gotta have the same destiny. Because the scriptures bear witness that two cannot walk unless they agree.
Hallelujah.
So if you don't have the same destiny, the same purpose, how could you have a wife? How could you have a brother? How could you have a sister? That's why you read the story of Joseph or Yosef in the Bible or the Torah. You see his brothers sold him into slavery. So you were based ultimately because they had the same physical attributes or the same blood, that they would have love for each other. But that love has to be predicated on purpose and destiny. Otherwise it falls to the ground. And then craft. The ability to have something that you can manifest in work, an attribute that you can form and fashion, a talent that is created and in harmony with the universal law, the universal God. You gotta work at it, your craft, do something you love. So we said when we have our economic needs, the first thing we gotta do is find something that we love doing that we can do for free.
Hallelujah.
So if you can't do this for free, you can't love God, build a better world just because it's something you innately love doing, then don't do it.
Hallelujah.
That's what a lot of these guys do for position, for power, and they fall by the wayside, or they lead us over the cliff.
Wow. Yeah.
Because it's something that's not innately in their heart. I gotta keep going back to hypocrite, somebody who speaks something that is not in their heart.
Can.
You may have the words to articulate it perfectly, and you may convey something that you mean it, but your actions prove and your intent shows it to really in your heart or not. Have a craft that is relative to creation and relative to your existence. Something you love more.
Servitude and blessing.
Servitude and blessing. We can't be afraid to work. We can't be afraid to do the work that is necessary to bring forth our salvation. And when you have that work, because we know work when we break understanding, is worship. So when you're working for y'all, you're worshiping God. So worship isn't just praying on your knees 5 times a day, 3 times a day or whatever. It's doing something. It's applicable. So your worship has to be applied in your daily lives. So a lot of times when our women disagree or don't follow us in the way they should, a lot of times it's because we're not applying our worship.
Hallelujah.
Because they're other half, so they're going to call you to see if you're a hypocrite before anybody. Don't get me wrong, a lot of our women have been indoctrinated by the society. But we create a society, an environment that is contrary to this, that we can put them into, and really vet and see if their nature is of what they were intended to be, or still relative to the adversary. First it starts in your home, first it starts with your actions. And then when you do that, when you have true worship, then you have the blessings of that. From that, you get the blessings. That's what it talks about when the story, the seed of Abraham. It said, your seed will be blessed. But you have to do something to get that blessing. We wake up every morning pissed because everything ain't the way we want it to be. But what are you doing to do it? I don't care what it is. I don't care if your dad was Michael Jordan. If you, his son, and you don't practice shooting basketball, defense, you can never reach that standard.
Hallelujah.
I had to work at this. Just because I'm the principal, I didn't innately have it. Some things that I was passed on genetically, but I still have to work at it. And so whatever we do, we got to understand there has to be a work involved into the blessing that we're going to receive. Keep going, sir.
Judgment, justice, and mercy.
Judgment,
Justice,
and mercy. If you're going to have judgment, if you want to implement judgment, you got to understand mercy. We're quick to judge, but we don't ever have the mercy that goes along with it. Therefore, we never reach true justice. We said earlier, you can be a terror. I mean, you're not necessarily a terror because you fall. We're going to fall. We're going to stumble. We become flawed. But we can't stay there. But a lot of times we keep people in that position because we ostracize and demonize them for their transgressions instead of showing mercy. Because you can't have no redemption unless you understand the ability to have mercy. You gotta hear me. You gotta have mercy. That's one way you bring forth justice. Forgiveness gotta be in your heart if you want to be forgiven for anything. Keep going. That's a whole other class. Keep going, brother.
zeal, and patience.
Zeal and patience. And this is what I had to learn. Because I came up together like a racehorse with this zeal. And rightfully so, because I see the big picture. I got a father and fathers and mothers who dedicated their life, so I was blessed and privy to the bigger picture. But if I don't have patience, I'll cut my head off before I get going myself. Not looking ahead, not planning my work and working my plan, not following God's agenda. Nothing is given to us, it has to be earned. Because with great power comes great responsibility, even greater responsibility. So those who are in a position of leadership in any form or fashion, whether you speak in front of millions or you just have a baby girl or a little brother, anytime you are an example, you have to hold yourself with the highest esteem if you want to manifest the true blessings of being a child of God. Zeal and patience. You got to be patient. You got to go through the due diligence of really understanding who you are and understand how to implement your very essence and your very nature.
War and counsel.
War and counsel. Now war, we talk about war a lot, it can be deceptive without the terminology. But when we war, we're not war on a fighting level, which we're trying to inflict pain, carnage, or death, devastation. We're war with anything that is contrary to the nature of life. So we don't accept anything that is foreign to life. That's what we're war with. So we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities, spiritual rulers of darkness, spiritual wickedness in high places. That's what I war is, spiritual wickedness in the highest places, which is in the heart and minds of men of the earth. Starting with ourselves. So we have to war with that. And we have to understand what else? Counsel. So we have to be able to be willing to have counsel. You gotta be able to listen to God. You gotta be able to listen to precisely. Sometimes you gotta listen to your little brother, your little sister, because they have the innocence to tell you when something is wrong. That God given right. But you can't be arrogant, cocky, not understanding, not humble enough to take counsel in whatever form or fashion that they come. Because we understand criticism can be constructive, meaning builds you up, or it can be destructive. But when you're in a realm of love, peace, and tranquility, when we give criticism, it isn't critical in the sense that we're trying to destroy you, but we're trying to build you up. Constructive criticism. It's going to start from the very foundation, but we got to work our way up. But it takes time, it takes a process. Counsel. So, I think we got that part. Listen, we got to get ready to wrap up. I want to cover Eve. We got to go to the woman now. We can't leave the woman out. So, what is the mandate of the woman that is intended and created and destined for Yah civilization?
Eve, life, living. The first woman. And the man called his wife named Eve because she was the mother of all living.
The mother of all living. So we understand now in the reality that all life comes from woman. She is the vessel in which we replicate the Spirit of God. So you got to understand that she's the mother of all living. She is the very soil that we plant our ideas and our thoughts into to manifest and to create a harvest, to create fruit. So what are we putting in our woman? What seeds are we planting in them to ensure a progeny that is dedicated and predicated to the salvation of his people, to the laws and the universal coordinates of mandates of God Israel? We are the planters and the farmers of the women. What are we putting inside of them? Since we say they're the soil, you gotta be conscious and cognitive of that. You gotta plant the right seeds, the right ideas, the right thoughts, the right mindsets. Create an environment that's conducive to that. Because you can't think you're gonna have a righteous woman and you got around all women that's full of gossip, full of envy, full of disdain. She's going to be a byproduct of that, ultimately. Excuse me. So we got to be conscious of that. Create an environment that's conducive. There's going to be a little resistance at first, but if she's your woman, she's going to understand. Because she is you. Don't be scared to take your position as a man. Because we know when you tie and bind the strong man, you rob the house. So they created a paradigm where the men are no longer in the houses. It's an article out that says the African American woman is the most educated in the world, has the most degrees in the world. Why is that? A couple reasons. One is so that you don't have any legitimate authority in your own household anymore. Because we understand through legal systems, through the enslavement, all these different things that you have been rehabilitated in the ability to be a man in your household. That means you've been in jail, you've been incarcerated, so now you don't have the ability to get a job because you've been categorized as a criminal at the highest level. So you lose all legitimacy in this social structure. You have no knowledge of self or understanding of self, so you don't know how to create your own system. So you fall victim and fall by the wayside of this reality. So now she has to take and supersede your position as man, so she becomes woman, man, and everything else. So you lose all authority. That was strategically and systematically put in place. That the woman be outwardly more educated than you, so now that you don't have no authority. But she still doesn't have any power. Not in this world. Right. But they give up power for the illusion of acceptance, of progress. Because all they see in their subconscious dating back to chattel antebellum slavery is the empowerment of this white supremacy society and the inability to manifest truth within the black man has been destroyed, harmed, castrated, the process of crack breaking, buck breaking and all that stuff. So you've been dehumanized at the highest levels. So going with you, it doesn't even cross her mind. What you gonna do for her? So that's why you have to create a God civilization so you can counteract the reality that we've been facing as a people in this country and throughout the world. Because because there's no place on this planet that this mentality, contrary to life, hasn't touched. Asia, Africa, Congo's had it worse than we probably ever had in the world. They still get away from back to King Leopold and the rubber and the middles now because of the cold tin for the cell phones and all that electronics they would use. Still being raped and privileged. So what are we going to do to create a paradigm? Well, we got to understand one that's already been created, but what are we going to do to continue to perpetuate the reality? Got to listen to our fathers. Got to listen to our mothers. Got to listen to those who came before us who set the standard on where we need to operate and the agenda to follow. Keep going.
Love or feeling, an individual consciousness.
So, innately in her initial state, your woman is the essence of love. She's the essence of patience, understanding, warmth. Nature's been contrary to that now, but we have to get her back to that so she can productively participate in a Yah civilization. Listen, woman. Keep going.
The I am, wisdom, puts feeling into what it thinks. And so Eve, feeling, becomes the mother of all living.
So she has the feeling, she has the wisdom just like we do. So when we learn and study these things, that's why it behooves us, if we want to have women, to have us participate in this. She needs the information and knowledge just as much as we do. She has to be a participant in her survival and her salvation just as well as we do. They have to be a part of this process. Every other people understood that. We're the only ones that say, oh, baby. No, they gotta be able to participate in this as well. But they gotta know what to do. That means they have to be taught as well.
Feeling is spirit, which quickens.
Which quickens, feeling the spirit. Means it's a process of applying the applicable laws of the universal God. They may feel in something else, but we know feeling is a product of the heart, which is the first brain. So feeling is the process of spirituality. That's why they have the woman's intuition is greater than all, because she still has remnants of that. Activation of the heart. Keep going.
Women symbolizes the soul region of man.
The rib, the protection, that's why she said it's spread from the rib. She's the soul protection of that. I mean, she is the soul as well. She's a byproduct of our souls. So we ultimately put the breath of life into her. That was given us to by the Creator. And that's why the woman has to understand her role as it relates to the family. She has to instill what the man has instilled into her to the children. See the lineage? It's a process. It's an agenda that we have to have again. So we understand when you want to be successful, you want to participate and have jobs, understand that. But we can't deviate from our original job. It's the one who educates and instills the values and morals into the children. That means we got to create a society, a totality of a society that they can be applied at the highest levels.
Right.
That women don't have to worry about trying to be man and woman at the same time.
And is the mother principle of God in expression. Back of the woman, feeling, is the pure life essence of God.
The pure life essence of God is the very nature. Woman is created from your very nature. So when we go back to the story of Adam and Eve, we can't blame Eve for our transgressions. She was a byproduct of you. So when my father taught the confession of Adam and the acquittal of Eve over 20 years ago, he taught about self-deception. That wasn't her, that was you. She was manifesting your ideas and your thoughts. And we see that happening now. But relative, the woman is manifesting the thoughts of the Euro-Gentile world. Yeah. But we haven't given her a world to digest and implement for ourselves. Then you gotta understand this responsibility. When we gotta understand yours, because you are the teacher of the children. So there's no purpose of bringing children in this world if you don't have nothing to teach and give them an environment that they can really thrive in. You just doing exercise at that point. You need to have no children. Because that's suicide again. It goes back to the suicide squad that the 6 spoke about. You bringing children into a world of the reality that you know that's predicated on death and devastation. When we read the Carl Quigley book, which is attaché for a lot of the presidents from Jimmy Carter to Bill Clinton and all those other guys, that war is the #1 creation and mandate of Western civilization. And Western civilization is just a cold world for white supremacy. Because when they talk about Western civilization, they're talking about European nations. They're not talking about Africa. They're not talking about South America, indigenous. They're talking about America with the indigenous people they created, or African nations that was over here. They're talking about since the rise of the 1600s when they ruled the Western Hemisphere. Western civilization. Keep on.
Adam and Eve represent the I am identified in life suffering.
That means it has to have unison. It has to be one. There's no separate. We have to destroy the enmity that's between man and woman. That's why the children don't love and don't trust and don't respect us. Because they're a byproduct of the hate and disdain that we have, the woman has for the man, and the man has for the woman. So how can you produce a child that is conducive to the universal God? So when we say how to work the y'all civilization, how to create a Yeshua every time, it starts with the connectivity and the relativity of the parents. So I can say I was a love child because my mother and my father connected on the spiritual plane, which produced what I am today. Otherwise, I'd just be as carpet as anybody else. We all would. Understand this. We can't play with this anymore. It's a formula, it's an agenda that we can implement that ensures our ability to thrive on this planet. Just like it's a formula and format that they use to ensure the state that we're in now, that we read from the presidents,
Right.
the highest office in this land. That means it's a policy, that's an agenda that they have.
Yeah.
The enslavement
Right.
of the God people on this planet. That means we have to have an agenda. What is y'all's agenda? Oh.
They are the primal elemental forces of being itself. Eve is very closely identified as elementary life with absolute life. God.
Elementary life meaning her final ability, which is to produce life again. Elementary not from the standpoint of basic, but of being pure. That's why they get the children, they have the Head Start programs, because they want to get the children in their most innocent state, because that's when they're most impressionable. That's when they have the ability to be manipulated, created, and formatted into something that's contrary to their very nature. So understanding that primal ability to create and create an atmosphere that allows them to stay on track with their very purpose and their very destiny. Y'all civilization, that's what it's all about.
The verb pop to be, being luminous, absolute life, which forms the basis of the name, I hope, Jehovah.
Okay, that's it right there. So it's the basic component of life. So I'm going to wrap up on this point, but we have to understand relative to God's agenda. So implemented the very laws and essence and nature of a man and a woman and of children, create that environment. But we have to understand also how to relatively relate to other nations as we create this environment, to create this paradigm. So how do we do that? That means we have to understand the format and the policies that are implemented to protect us so we stay within our frame of mind and then we don't become subjective of their reality. Because that's one of the great things they did even with our very nation. They preyed on weaknesses that they were able to exploit to make us contrary to what we're created to be and be susceptible of their doctrine, which makes us demons and devils because we are demon devils agent is contrary to his very nature, the very purpose that was created in. So we got to be circumspect of that. We got to create a paradigm where we educate not just about ourselves, but about other nations surrounding us. So we know what to expect when we encounter them. And we be the ones who influence them versus those who influence us. And we have to have purpose for this planet. When we start to be creative, when we start to implement and continuously create and build our world that's already established, we have to understand the implementation of services and technologies that is harmonious with the planet. Because another problem that we're in, the terrible health condition that we are now, is because the planet is being destroyed and it's ill and it's sick. And it's relative to the catastrophes that we see every day, relative to the weather and other things. Global warming, these things are reality. But the planet's going to heal itself. Can we heal ourselves in time? And catch up, that is the question. So we have to implement things, green energy, technologies that are not depleting the earth's resources, but are replenishing them. These are our agenda, these are our mandates. So on that note, I thank everybody who's been here. But you could be another place on the planet, but you decided to be here today with your heart and mind in your ear. That's something that we do not take lightly. And I leave you as I came in the words of peace. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.